I'm here with actress Shirley Rumierk, who is currently starring on Manifest on NBC.
Yeah.
Show's just wrapped up filming,
Yes.
has not wrapped up airing. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about when you first decided you wanted to become an actress.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw your first credit was a Law and Order back in '90. So were you a child actor
I was just I was involved in when I was a kid in a children's theater program called the 52nd Street Project.
Mhm.
And around that time, it's based in Hell's Kitchen, and around that time, I think casting of Law and Order at that time was looking for kids, and so a couple of kids, one other kid from the 52nd Street Project, and myself did an episode of Law and Order. But
That's like the New York actor calling card.
that is
so you
the
got it
calling
out of your
card.
way real quick.
I sure did. I sure did. I
There
was
was
like,
no looking
"Let's
back
do
after
this
that.
now." Yeah. But it was just like my mom would always say, it was just a hobby. It was for fun. The 52nd Street Project was my second home, so I was either at school or at this children's theater program. And I'd never considered pursuing acting professionally at all, even though I did that episode.
Right.
And at some point when I was in college and I was with the hopes of pursuing a degree in economics, it became clear very quickly that that was not the appropriate career choice.
Well, it looks like you made a good choice now, as we sit here. Hindsight and all,
That's
right?
true, that's true. Good choices, good choices. And I switched to Hispanic studies. I was very interested in Hispanic literature, film from Spain. And then at some point, I realized that I loved performing. Even though when I was in college, I was still involved with the 52nd Street Project during the summers, helping out backstage as a counselor with the kids. And in that program, you perform, you write, you help backstage. There's a lot of facets, a lot of things that you do, with a lot of hats that you wear and that you're exposed to in the theater. And I realized I took a trip to Cuba that summer, and somehow when you just get out of your normal routine, you start to consider things. And I realized that what I was most passionate about were the arts and performing. And it was that trip, sort of stepping outside, and also coming back to campus and realizing that I was done with analyzing literary characters. I wanted to then embody those literary characters and tell their stories as opposed to just being very cerebral and analyzing them.
Right.
That I did one last thing. So the first was this trip. The second was realizing I was tired of analyzing these literary characters. And the third was I imagined myself 75 years old and looking back and realizing that I would regret not pursuing a professional career as an actor.
That's an interesting place to put yourself
Yes.
into. Usually, like, oh, where do you want to see yourself in 5 or 10 years? You went.
I just went
all
all
out.
the way.
Yeah.
I got on a plane, like Manifest, and went, wait, no, I'm just kidding.
Unlike
But-
Manifest, thankfully.
Unlike Manifest, yeah. So I went far into the future and just sort of settled and thought, how would I feel? And I realized I would feel so much regret at not having even tried. And see, so I gave myself a 5-year plan and said, all right, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to study as much as I can and work my butt off and see what happens. And within 5 years, I ended up doing a play on Broadway called Latino Logs at the Helen Hayes.
Right.
And at that point, I then
With
became
Eugenio Derbez?
Eugenio Derbez, yeah.
Sorry,
And
my
yeah.
Spanish is
Oh, it's all right.
clearly American.
That's okay. We're here. And Cheech Marin directed that. And so at that point, I became a full-time actor, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, and you really broke your teeth here in New York with a lot of episodic work.
Yes.
Which is great. You pretty much have appeared on
Yes.
close to everything that they filmed here.
So,
You did White Collar,
Yes.
The Good Wife, and
yes.
what was it like? Since you were theater oriented in the beginning, to be placed on these sets and learn the craft of television and filmmaking, was that a goal when you started? Were you just going for any of the three?
Yes,
And
there
you-
was a time I remember a couple of years ago. Someone asked me, "Oh, so what do you prefer, theater, film, television?" I was like, "Honey, whatever pays."
That's right.
I gotta keep the lights on.
Yeah, that's
So
right. That's right.
I didn't, and I loved all three, film, television, theater. I loved all three for very different reasons.
Mhm.
It's like three different kids that you have, and you love them all for their very special reasons. Right now, I'm really enjoying television.
Yeah.
And theater, I still love, and film I still love. But right now, we're in the TV boom renaissance
Right,
moment.
and there's
New
so many
York
shows
yes.
on Netflix and Hulu, and like there's so many opportunities now
Absolutely.
for actors,
Yes.
which has
there's-
got to be exciting.
Very exciting, and what's also very exciting is that now there's so many stories,
Right.
stories to tell, so many interesting angles and characters to play. So, and there was a point in my career when I had considered, should I move out to LA, should I not? And for me, I ended up realizing that I tended to do very well wherever I am, that I am most comfortable.
Right.
And I just felt much more in my element in New York, and also auditioning from New York. And right around the time I was trying to make that decision is when the boom of sort of tapes, sending emails of auditions and
Yeah.
casting off of tape.
It's definitely changed a lot
Yeah.
with the advent of, we were talking about cell phones and doing self-tapes on phones and
Yeah.
just shooting it off really quickly and
Yeah, with the technology and some good sunlight in
Good
your
lighting, that's
apartment,
right.
or maybe a good set of lights, you can, and a nice little blue
I was
background.
with the basement of
The
a
basement.
building in New York here.
Yes. I've been in hotel rooms where I once took a behind the scenes picture where it's like there's a blue sheet that I safety pinned to a curtain, and then I rigged the lights of the hotel. I took like the shades off, and the lampshades off on these lamps, and I put them in an angle,
That's
and then I put my tripod and
Whatever you have to do to get it done, right?
Exactly. That was
I
my
feel
casting
you.
office.
As an interviewer, sometimes it's
You
struggle.
improvise.
You have to. If you got to get it done, sometimes you got to get it done. Guerrilla filmmaking and auditioning at its best.
Yeah.
Now you were in the movie Collateral Beauty. You played Michael Pena's wife.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of an emotional role for you, right?
Yeah, it was. It was really heartbreaking. There was a scene that we did that didn't end up in the film, and it's the scene where he dies. And
Spoiler alert. No.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah,
But
the movie's been out long enough. If you
yeah,
didn't see it, it's your
you'll be
problem.
fine. You get what's gonna happen to me. But that scene never made it in the film. But when we shot it, it was like over and over, and it was like, and it was really fun to do. Not just
Yeah.
that scene, but all of our other scenes.
Right.
Michael's so giving and so present, and also has a great sense of humor, which is a relief when you're doing emotionally, when you're doing intense scenes like that.
Absolutely.
To just have a bit of comic relief afterwards to just dissipate the sadness.
Now, the last 2 years, I guess, a year and a half, you've been lucky enough to be in the NBC family.
Yeah.
You were on Rise unfortunately, it only lasted a season, which was a tragedy in and of itself. But you played Vanessa, who was the lead character's mom.
Yes.
Had a little bit of, you had a good storyline of your own. It wasn't just
loved
about about the kids. You were very central to
Yeah.
the show. And what was it like playing Vanessa? I mean, she came on having an affair with the coach of the school and embarrassing her daughter, and yet didn't feel guilty about what she was doing, and partially did, but she's like, this is me. This is, it's not a torrid affair. And
Yeah.
what was that like playing that character? And in the interest of being completely transparent, I watched Rise. I watched every single episode, and I've
you.
watched every episode of Manifest. I had no idea that you were the mother in Rise.
Oh, excellent.
That's how talented you are. That you are so
Thank
lost within
you.
your characters
I do.
that I did not know that you were involved until probably
awesome.
3 weeks ago.
Oh, very cool.
And
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what?
It was very exciting to do Manifest after Rise and doing two very different characters, both mothers.
Right.
Spoiler alert for someone who haven't caught up on Manifest, but yeah, both mothers, but both with very different approaches to life and interacting with people and how to go about things, and both that looked very different.
Very
Which
different.
is very
Honest
exciting.
to God, I bet I'm not the only person who did not realize that
Yeah,
you, you were the same person
Yes.
playing the two different roles on two different shows because they are
Absolutely,
so far apart, other
Completely
than
different.
having the mother thing in common.
Yes, for me it was. It's been really exciting playing these complicated characters, these very complicated women where you love them in one episode, you hate them in the other, you want to root for them, you get upset, you're
Right.
disappointed. That there is that similarity between both characters. And what I find is that where Vanessa on Rise was absolutely unapologetic,
Mm-hmm.
she and I loved playing that character. I was
Yeah.
raised by a single mom, so and I'm an only child, so I was raised as an only child, and so I had a very deep understanding of that character and the relationship that I had with Ali. We had a shorthand. We were very familiar with that dynamic.
What was that like playing, and I guess being on set as kind of the senior actress along with the other adult actors, kind of the young kids looking to you to fill them in on, okay, what should I be doing? How do I act? How do I?
It was actually really. I mean, most of my scenes were with Ali, and she was a gem. She was an absolute natural. So she knew what she was doing.
She didn't need your advice.
She didn't need any advice from me. She was absolutely fabulous and fine. And if anything, I was busy learning stuff from them, just catching up on like, Snapchat, how to do,
Right.
Anything that I do on Instagram and Twitter, I learned
From them.
From the kids on Rise.
Yeah.
they taught me everything. I learned from them, and so I just kind of, I loved hanging around them.
Yeah.
What was really special is that every time an episode would air, we would all get together and sit around in one of the conference room at 30 Rock, and we would live tweet together. And it always felt so special to come together and continue that camaraderie and that feeling of family that we had initiated on set and continue it after it was
Right.
the episodes were airing. And we'd bring candies and
It's funny how the roles kind of reversed with the advent of the technology. When you were coming up, you probably had people who were older than you on set who were guiding you, and now it's flipped now. That's like,
Yes.
now social media is so important
yes.
that now you're still learning.
No, you're absolutely learning,
It's
which
like you
makes it
flip.
exciting.
Yeah,
Which makes
absolutely.
it just very exciting. And what I find so interesting by incorporating social media into it, I know some folks can drag their feet like, because there is a bit of a learning curve. But once you get over that curve, it's a fantastic platform for creativity.
Absolutely.
Because now you can use, if you have a knack for comedy, you can use that in your witty little comments and the gifs
Right.
that you choose to post. And what's fun as an actor when you're live tweeting is that you can tweet as your character, as the actor commenting on the character,
Right.
the character commenting on the rest of the show, or
Right.
the actor commenting on the rest of the show, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's almost like people started doing everything on YouTube, which kind of led to, maybe let's do Netflix. You know what I mean? Like YouTube kind of paved the way for all these streaming services now that can offer so much content
Yes.
to it. So it's really, like we mentioned before, exciting time. Now let's dig into Manifest.
Yes, let's take it, let's
So
take it
Autumn.
away. Let me cross my
She
feet
gets
here.
she gets on this plane and hits some lightning.
Boom.
All of a sudden,
Dark
everything's
lightning.
fine. You guys land. It's 5 years
Right.
in the future.
I want my $400 back.
That's right. Yeah.
And also
Did you at
found the
least have
fountain of
extra
youth.
leg room for the 5 years?
I know, exactly.
Good thing it wasn't actually 5
Right,
years.
does this mean my luggage is free?
Yeah, that's right.
That's very important questions.
Those are the. We should talk to Jeff. And
Yes.
See what he says. Maybe that will all hinge on a renewal if we find the answers to these questions today in this interview. So it was a very interesting concept for a show, and you all had to come back into real life, with air quotes, not realizing 5 years had passed. And we don't see you right off the bat. You're kind of being held captive and being tortured and all this other stuff, and then show up
Right.
seemingly as another victim, but also turns out you are a victim, but you're hooking them in first
Right.
before your true victimness is,
Right.
that's even a word, has been revealed, and,
Right.
and your ultimate end goal of why you're doing everything. What was it like losing yourself in the character? Because like I said, totally different from Rise.
Yes.
You literally you're so talented that there wasn't even a correlation other than what we mentioned,
Right.
that they were mothers.
So
That's where it ends, I think, for me.
when I take on a role,
Mhm.
the no matter villain, hero, no matter what,
Mhm.
I always feel that my character has to lead with hope.
Mhm.
Hope. And I do not judge.
Mhm.
I do not judge the character ever. And so in my mind, they're trying to make that character's trying to make the best that they can with the circumstances they're given
Right.
in the situation that they are in. And so they always lead with the hope that whatever decisions they're making is for the best for them,
Mhm.
for their family, and that's where they lead.
Yeah.
And that's where I lose myself in that
Mhm.
in the character, and I'm in that world. And so if Vanessa decides that she's having this affair with the coach, it's because she sees it as a great opportunity, because she feels that there's a deep love, that this is sincere.
Mhm.
She's taking the coach's word, as that this is real, and that it could be an opportunity for them to have this wholesome, this family that she envisions. I mean, those were the sort of the stories, the background that I was
Mhm.
giving my character to work and feed off of. So what may seem maybe as selfish, or whatever the opinion was from different, it was interesting to read some of the feedback from different viewers on Rise fans, of like, they could understand why she would make, and others like, that's not right, she shouldn't have an affair, and others,
Right.
I feel guilty, I kind of wish they were together, but what about the daughter? So I do, and then I always led with, for Vanessa, that she always leads with making these decisions as trying to be the best decisions for her daughter.
Mhm.
Now over in Manifest,
Land.
it's so with this one was an interesting challenge, because so I didn't know it was going to happen in
I
the
was
next
just going to
episode.
ask you, did you know your
So the
character's
difference,
through line?
yes. So the beauty with the Rise is that before we started shooting, we knew what the arc was going.
Mhm.
So that was a nice gift. And at the same time, with Manifest, it was a gift not to know what
Right.
the next episode was, because I worked with Bob Krakauer. Was said, all you know when you're performing as an actor, all you know is this scene
Mhm.
right here in front of you, and that's the story you're going to tell. You can't start telling the next scene story. No, that's the other scene, and you let the editors handle that. This is what you know. And so in that episode where I come in all week and, oh, help me, it to me, it's legitimate. She needs help. And
Right.
it's not with this agenda. I can't play the agenda in that.
Yeah.
So all I'm playing is save me.
I think
Help
that
me.
really, really works to the benefit of the actors on a show like Manifest, because if you're informed, I mean, obviously you should be talented enough to play that you don't know.
Right.
But
you
at the
have
same
to let
time,
it go.
you have to let it go, but at the same time, you probably get a more natural reaction if you're learning it as the character's learning it.
It's
I
kind
think.
of a cool. It's also, I really did appreciate it, because then it simplified things a lot for me. And I think at the end of the day, as an actor, the desires that you have as this character are generally simple and straightforward, and they are it's life or death.
Right.
Pretty much, it's drama. It's life or death, and so all that other stuff, the intrigue, the twists and turns, you can't play that. That's
Right.
not part of that gets put together,
Yeah.
and the viewer sees that, but as the actor,
And if I'm not mistaken, you work pretty much with every series regular that's on the show.
well, except
You worked with Josh, you worked with Melissa, you worked with JR, right?
yeah, it was Josh, Melissa, JR,
And Parveen.
and Parveen, yes.
Yeah, so
Parveen.
Athena was the only one you
Yes,
didn't work
I
with.
think it was the only one I didn't get a chance, didn't have the honor to work with, but hopefully we'll see
Yeah,
if it gets
that's
renewed.
right. Hopefully if it gets renewed, and we don't want to spoil whether you come back or not for the
Yeah.
last remaining episodes of the season.
Yeah, well, yes, we don't know. I don't know.
We don't know.
I mean, there are some very diligent fans out there that already checked on IMDb. I'm like,
The one behind the camera also did that.
but yes, we'll see if there's a return at some point.
That would be great. Yeah. I mean, with a show like Manifest, you can actually come back anyway, even if your story has ended. Now,
I have to
you
tell
can come back.
I have to tell
in
you,
the past.
when I saw the pilot, and I'll never forget this, when I saw the pilot, and then the pilot of the pilot says at one point he's trying to land the plane, and the tower's like, what plane is this?
Yeah.
How many passengers? And I think he says, I have 191 souls on this plane. The first thing that I thought, I was like, 191 New York actors just got jobs.
That's right.
That was the first thing. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
This is great.
One of the things that I was disappointed about in the show was the one character who went off with the pilot who got kidnapped, and they disappeared again. It's like I always thought she was the major.
All right,
to be honest with you, and I'm like,
what's really
damn,
cool
like
about this show is that because you only know what's in the next. Only very few people have read a couple episodes in, but everyone is pretty much just like whatever episode has been printed out and that we're about to shoot next week.
That's
is
what
what
you know.
you know. So it's awesome when you're in like hair and makeup, we all come up with theories.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what. So I have a theory that the pilot and Fiona, when they go into that, dark lightning, that they weren't shot down, that they probably are now like with the dinosaur, like they're the dinosaurs of the Jurassic. Like,
and now hundreds of New York dinosaurs can be employed.
I said they can be employed. This is amazing. But yeah, or they're we're gonna find them, 2 years later or a year later. I'm excited.
So excited. Well, I am so thankful that you took time out of your day to come down and interview with me. It's been a real pleasure.
Same here.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.